One of my goals in 2026 is to read more fiction, and I'm happy to say that I started off 2026 really strong with a great historical fiction book. I recently finished a book called The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, a very famous World War II book by an author that is often cited on Book Talk as one of the better ones in the historical fiction genre. Now, I've been eyeing some Kristen Hanna books for a long time, mainly because I like the subject matters that she deals with in her books. And The Nightingale in particular was really interesting because it's a book about two sisters in France when the Second World War descends upon their lives, and they find themselves in two vastly different, radically different positions in occupied France throughout the entirety of the war. Not only was this book an interesting character study, but it was also a really interesting way of reading about the World War II experience in occupied France. Now, for that piece alone, I really enjoyed this book. I've always wanted to read a little bit more about the French experience during World War II, and I found the contrast of both of the characters very compelling and interesting. But there are a few things that kind of bug me about this book, and it probably boils down to preference. The first one is I wasn't a fan of pretty much any of the romance aspects, and I don't think anybody's going to be surprised to hear me say that because it's just not really my jam. But I just sort of felt like some of the romance was placed there as an add-on rather than something that I felt like added much to the characters at all. But the other thing that I didn't really love about this book was that I found the characters flat. And it's strange to say that because I really did enjoy both of their storylines. I almost thought that they were a little bit too predictable, even though the sister who is working with the French resistance should really be a more interesting character because of her action driven personality. I found the other sister who sort of just put her head down and tried to survive the war much more interesting because it seemed a little bit more realistic to me. If you've read the book, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Either way, I don't really think it threw off the story for me. I just think it just proves that I'm more interested in historical fiction because of the historical backdrop than I am about the characters' lives. Maybe that's just because I need to read a little bit more historical fiction to get used to these kinds of stories. This is my first run at historical fiction. I think I started off with a really strong book. Let me know what your thoughts were about The Nightingale because I'd love to hear them. I'll see you guys in the comments.